Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. On this channel, we try to learn various concepts of data science by practicing a lot of questions. This video is in continuation of the SQL 50 Crack SQL Interview and 50 question series where we are trying to learn hands-on SQL using 50 carefully curated questions covering diverse aspects of SQL. So we are already done with the select, basic joins, basic aggregate functions, as well as sorting and grouping. With this video, we will starting with the advanced select and joins, then we'll be moving to subqueries, and finally ending with advanced string functions, regex, and clauses. In this video, we are going to solve this question called the number of employees which report to each employee and try to learn from it. So yeah, let's jump right in. This is the 30th question of this series, and if you look at the companies this question has been asked in, so Amazon and Coderbyte, kind of an important question. Let's look at what the question has to say. We are given a table called employees with 4 different columns: employee ID whose data type is integer, name which is a variable character, reports to, an age, and both of them are integer. Employee ID is the column with unique values for this table. This table contains information about the employees and the ID of the manager they report to. Some employees do not report to anyone, that is, reports to is null. For this problem, we will consider a manager and an employee who has at least one other employee reporting to them. We are asked to write a solution to report the IDs and the names of all managers, the number of employees who directly report to them, and the average age of the reports rounded to nearest integer. Return the result table ordered by employee ID. Okay, let's look at this example and see what do we expect in our output. Here we have various employees, their names, who they report to, and their age. So let's look at who of them is a manager. So obviously there are two people, Alice and Bob, that report to a person with ID 9, and 9 is Hersey. So in our output, we need to have the employee ID 9. The name of the manager is Hersey. How many people they report to is 2. And the average mean is 41 plus 36 divided by 2. And that is what we have in our output. Since in our output we also need the name of the person, that is the name of the manager, and here we have the IDs of them. So this is a classic example of using a self join. Now we learned earlier in the series that self joins can be done using inner joins, left joins, right joins, etc. In this case, inner join will be the best case because we are only concerned about people who have the potential to be a manager. Let us move to Excel and try to learn how this join will work. So here we have the employees table, and these are the 4 employees, their names, who they report to, and their age. Okay, so when we do a self join, what do we basically do? So for example, we take the same table and alias this as 2 different things. So for example, this is aliased as, let's say, A1, and then let us take another exact thing. So another version of this table, let me paste it here, and this, let's alias this as A2. Okay, now what we can do is so let me go back and start writing this query. So from this table called employee aliased as A1, let me inner join the employees table aliased as A2 now. So this is a self join on. Here we need to find, okay, reports to. So these are the IDs of their managers, and to get their name, we need to have them joined on the employee ID of the second version. So what I mean by that is reports to. So 9, it goes and look into the second version, that is A2 version, and tries to find out, okay, this is the employee ID 9, this is their name and other information. So we can write on A1 dot reports to is equal to A2 dot employee ID. Okay, let me switch back to Excel again and let's see how this join will work. So here, row by row, it will say, okay, here firstly we have null, which will obviously be ignored. Okay, one thing to note here, do not think that here, let's say there was a 5th row, let's say called null, and like whatever a person's name ABC and reports to, say, 8, and then average is being 50, let's say. Okay, now do not think that here it will say, okay, null, it will go and find out that, okay, this is also null, so it will perform a null. No, it will perform a join. No, that is not how SQL works. So this will be ignored. So let me just delete this part. Okay, so obviously this one is being ignored. Now cursor moves to row 2, 9, it will find a match and let's say, okay, 9 Henry null and 43. So let me go ahead and copy this here, and if we are returning everything, so this is what it will populate. Then again the same thing, 9, so here again also the same thing happens, and then again null, so obviously ignored. So since we are performing an inner join means which is common between both of the tables. So this will only keep these two rows. So if I let me go ahead and highlight this so that it's easier for us. So these two rows are only in our output. Now, once we have this, then what do we need? In our output, we need the employee ID of the manager, their name, the number of people who directly report to them, and the average age of the people who report to them. So very simple. All we can do is we can start and group by the employee ID. And if I just, copy this, so these are the four columns that are being coming from the A2 version, right? So in group by the employee ID and their name, and then we can count the employee ID coming from the employees table or the first version that will give you the number of people who report to them, and then you calculate the average of this. So if I go ahead and do group by the columns coming from A2 version, because A1 versions are the employees and A2 versions employee ID is the manager ID. So we need the managers in our output. So we do A2 dot employee ID, and we also need their names in our output, right? So we need the name, and then we can return the same thing. So A2 dot employee ID as well as A2 dot name. And then since we learned that we can count the number of employee IDs from the A1 version. So count A1 dot employee ID, and that will give you as reports count. Why we are not doing distinct employee ID? Because of the thing that question says that employee ID is the unique values for this table. So basically this is a primary key. So we do not need to do distinct. Okay, once we have the reports count, we also need the average age. So average age is average of A1 dot age. Average, so comma, average of A1 dot age. However, this needs to be rounded to the nearest integer. So what we can do is we can simply write round to nearest integer. So the way to do is round to 0 decimal places. That will round to the nearest integer, and that should be aliased as average age. So average age. Also, this should be ordered by employee ID. So, and this employee ID, what does it mean? It's basically the employee ID of the manager, because in our output we have the managers, right? So we need to write order by A2 dot employee ID. Okay, let me go ahead and run this. Let's see what do we get in our output. So yeah, this is accepted. Our output, let me go ahead and drag it to the left and to upper, so that, okay, so our output is same as expected output. Let me go ahead and submit it to pass all the test cases. So yeah, this is accepted, and this is how I do it. So even though it says easy question, actually it is somewhat tricky, because firstly we need to know how a self join works. We identified which columns to add to, how to group by, and how to count the number of people reporting as well as their average age, and how to round to the nearest integer. So this is how we do it. Let me know if there is a better way or more efficient way to solve this question. Let the solution be in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in the next video.